All right, you guys. So there is some breaking news that just was released. There has been a federal indictment. A grand jury has indicted four former Minneapolis police officers, including Derek Chauvin and the other three who are charged in the death of George Floyd. Now, they're alleging that the officers violated Floyd's constitutional rights. This is breaking, so there's not a lot of information, but what we do know is that the Department of Justice has expanded their initial investigation, not just on Derek Chauvin and these three officers, but on the entire Minneapolis Police Department. Then a few weeks later, we found out that the Louisville Police Department, the department responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor, is now also being investigated by the Department of Justice. And so this is something I think that we should all be paying close attention to because yes, the Derek Chauvin trial, while it was symbolic of change for policing across America, we know that since that guilty verdict came out, not much has changed from a policy standpoint. And all of the police reform bills, all of the efforts to make policing more equitable and safer for everyone, all of those policies have been held up in the Senate, which is Republican majority. And so while people were hopeful that the Derek Chauvin trial would result in meaningful change across the country, um, we're not really seeing that happen. And so now people are looking at this investigation by the Department of Justice and saying, okay, now here there may be a higher level of accountability for these officers who have been abusing their power and who have been using this position to target and profile Black Americans. And so, with the Department of Justice intervening and launching this investigation, and now moving forward with an indictment, I think that this is going to send a clear signal that there will be accountability in police departments. And when you think about the fact that this is coming from a federal level, this is a direct response to the fact that we have a new administration who is looking at this issue. And while they have not been speaking about it publicly that much, we are seeing some action and some execution in accountability in terms of police departments. And so the interesting thing being on the ground here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, we have been hearing for years that there is corruption in the Minneapolis Police Department. We've also been hearing since the Department of Justice launched that investigation that they should not only be looking at Minneapolis, community organizers who have been following this issue for years are saying St. Paul, which is just 10 minutes away, is a more deadlier police department, and that police department should be investigated as well. And following the protests in Brooklyn Center after Dante Wright was killed, community leaders are saying that it shouldn't just be the police departments. Don't stop there. They're saying you need to look at the state patrol. You need to look at all of the agencies that are deployed in these communities when protests break out because of the use of things like tear gas and rubber bullets, even after. So you guys know I interviewed the Brooklyn Center mayor who had been on the ground really trying to quell a lot of the civil unrest after Dante Wright was killed. The Brooklyn Center mayor said he outlawed the use of tear gas after the first night, but it was deployed for 2 or 3 more nights following that. And so how is it that you have a mayor, a city official, who's doing what he can in his city to protect predominantly like the residents who live nearby, and the law enforcement agencies who have been deployed in these communities are just disregarding that? And so that is a clear example of how a lot of these agencies and entities and political figures are being dismissive of one another and just basically doing what they want to do. But if you guys are just joining, breaking news is that a federal grand jury has indicted Derek Chauvin as well as the other three officers, saying that they have violated George Floyd's constitutional rights. And so this is developing. This is breaking news. We're still working to learn more. I will continue to follow it, but I want to encourage you guys to head over to my website, georgiaford.com. Click on the support button. If you're not a supporter already, that's the only way that I can continue doing this work. And if you want to see some of the coverage that I did on this, a lot of the times I was on Facebook just because it was a lot easier. But I'm working now because of the support of you guys to expand my coverage here on YouTube as well. So yeah, if you're able to, I would appreciate that. And then also subscribe. I will continue following this. I'm still here in Minneapolis. So as these developments continue to come out, I will, work to get them to you as quickly as possible. But this is not the end. We know attorney Eric Nelson, Derek Chauvin's defense attorney, just tried to file for a mistrial. He tried to request a new trial. And here the Department of Justice is pretty much putting a halt to that and saying, even a grand jury found him responsible. We know that based on investigations done by independent community-led organizations like Communities United Against Police Brutality, that Derek Chauvin was involved in between like 5 to 7 other incidents, some of them fatal. And when you start looking at some of the information that has come out from the Department of Justice, we know that Derek Chauvin has used similar force, the knee on the neck, for other individuals, including minors. And so if the chief of police went on the stand and testified, hey, we don't train our officers to use this type of force. That type of force is not authorized. We heard lieutenants say, even in an instance where you feel like you need to use that type of force, the duration in which that force was used was uncalled for. And to know that leading up to George Floyd, he had used that same technique several other times and was never disciplined, then shouldn't we say that the police department is just as responsible for the fatal use of force in the situation of George Floyd? Because they knew that he was doing that before and they never did anything about it. So why would he stop? So there has to be some correction within the culture of these police departments that are standing by and being complicit when officers are using force that they're saying they're not authorized to use. So this will be very interesting to not only see how this new federal indictment that we just learned about today, a grand jury indictment on Derek Chauvin and the other three officers. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It'll be interesting to see how this entire investigation by the Department of Justice plays out with the Minneapolis Police Department. And I'm keeping my eyes on the investigation that's happening in Louisville as well, because in that case, there was no level of accountability. Whereas in this case, we've seen the state at least be successful in finding Derek Chauvin guilty on all charges. So I will continue following this. I appreciate you guys tuning in for this breaking news special report. Make sure that you guys follow and subscribe. Have a good day.